There are days when every cell in our body seems to conspire against our growth. The mind finds excuses with almost surgical precision, the body cries out for immediate comfort, and the heart seeks refuge in the most seductive distractions. We know exactly what needs to be done: getting out of bed when the alarm goes off, facing a difficult conversation, finishing a stalled project, studying even when exhausted, training despite having no energy, or simply saying no to what moves us away from our best version. Yet we remain paralyzed. Inertia settles in like a heavy blanket, and the simple act of starting becomes a silent battle invisible to the world, but intense within us. It is precisely at this point that true strength reveals itself, the ability to act even without will, motivation, or emotional validation. Waiting for the ideal conditions is a subtle trap. Motivation is like the weather. It changes, fluctuates, disappears. Discipline, on the other hand, is the constant decision to continue, even in discomfort. Action does not require your emotional permission. You don't need to want to do it, you just need to do it. Interestingly, the drive often arises after the first step. Enthusiasm comes as a consequence of movement, not as its condition. A practical strategy to escape paralysis is the 5-second rule, popularized by Mel Robbins. As soon as hesitation arises, count mentally 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and act. Don't wait. Get up, turn off your phone, start writing, send the email, lace up your sneakers. This brief interval cuts the cycle of self-sabotage and prevents the mind from rationalizing escape. Another powerful secret is to fragment the task. The brain gets overwhelmed by what seems immense or definitive. Thus, instead of promising to run 5 kilometers, just put on your sneakers. Instead of swearing you will write an entire chapter, open the file and type the first sentence. This small movement generates energy. This energy fuels the drive, and the drive builds progress. Even minimal, this advancement strengthens your self-confidence. Remember, discipline is not about rigidity or repression. It is about freedom, the freedom not to be a slave to your momentary mood. With every small victory over yourself, you redefine who you are. And in the end, it is not comfort that builds a meaningful life, but the courage to act, even when everything in you urges to stop. Small, consistent steps surpass great intentions never acted upon. Don't underestimate the power of a modest beginning. What seems insignificant today can, over time and with persistence, move mountains. True progress rarely happens in spectacular leaps. It reveals itself in silent choices, repeated gestures, and the daily decision to continue even when everything in you calls for a pause. Remember, it's not about waiting for the desire to arrive, it's about acting even without desire. Discipline begins where motivation ends, and it is precisely there that the truest freedom lies. Doing what needs to be done without depending on the fluctuations of enthusiasm. Over time, this posture transforms your relationship with effort, with obstacles, and most importantly, with your own identity. It's not about eliminating discouragement forever. It's about making choices aligned with your values, even on cloudy days. The truth is simple and non-negotiable. The discomfort of effort will always weigh less than the regret of not having tried. There is no consolation sufficient for a life shelved by fear, laziness, or perfectionism. Your mind may scream, resist, invent convincing excuses, but you are not a hostage to your thoughts. They come and go like clouds. You are the sky, vast, stable, resilient. True strength does not lie in never feeling fear or fatigue, but in continuing to walk despite them. It is in the imperfect consistency, day after day, that a meaningful life is built. Reprogramming our relationship with discomfort is essential. We have been taught to associate effort with failure, fatigue with weakness, hesitation with incapacity. These ideas, whispered by culture and fear, have generated beliefs that make us give up just when we are about to break through limits. But the truth that liberates is this: discomfort does not indicate that you are failing, it shows that you are growing. When you feel that internal tension, that friction between what was and what is becoming, recognize you are in the midst of transformation. You are trading the comfort of the known for the promise of the possible. And yes, growth hurts. But not because you are failing it hurts, because you are finally getting it right. In this context, pain is sacred. It marks the birth of a new strength, a new clarity, a new you. The old must depart so that the new has space. And every step you take, even if shaky, even if slow, is an act of courage. Don't underestimate that step. It may be small, but it is taking you exactly where you were born to be. To sustain a process of genuine transformation, it is essential to cultivate rituals and create environments that favor deliberate action. Real changes do not arise solely from great decisions, but from the repetition of small, conscious habits. They are the silent levers of progress. A cold shower first thing in the morning awakens the body and revitalizes the mind, signaling a new cycle. A clean and intentional workspace is not a luxury, it is a strategy. It eliminates visual and mental noise, opening space for focus. A specific playlist to get into production mode can become a sensory anchor, training the brain to recognize when it's time to concentrate. Walking in silence, in turn, is a gesture of reconnection. It integrates emotion and logic, helping to reorganize thoughts and clarify intentions. These triggers are not just techniques, they are personal codes that teach the brain to know when it's time to perform, create, act. But as important as what is added is what is removed, and that requires courage. Uninstall applications that drain your energy, silence notifications that fragment your focus, step away from voices that confuse more than guide. Saying no is also an act of love, especially for yourself. Attention is a scarce and sacred resource. Protecting it is a duty, not a luxury. Clarity often does not come from the arrival of something new, but from the elimination of excess. Simplifying is allowing the essential to breathe. And when the path inevitably seems difficult, because it will at some point, remember, persisting is not a gift, it is a choice. A decision that renews itself each morning, even in silence, even without guarantees. You are more prepared than you think. Consistency has more strength than any fleeting inspiration. Never underestimate the power of silent self-responsibility. This discreet, resilient and firm strength does not shout, but asserts day after day, "I do what needs to be done." It does not seek recognition, does not depend on validation. It simply acts while others wait for ideal motivation. It remains when enthusiasm dissolves, when doubt whispers, when the world distracts. There will be days when progress seems invisible, effort seems futile, and loneliness feels more pronounced than reward. But it is not about always being inspired. It is about always being present, about moving forward, about taking the next step, even when afraid, even when tired. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. Start, restart, and if necessary, restart again. 10, 20, 100 times, as many as it takes, because the difference between those who arrive and those who give up rarely lies in talent. It lies in the willingness to keep going. And more importantly, learn to honor your commitments even when no one is watching. It is in silence that true integrity is born, one that does not need an audience, but sustains the soul. Because in the end, it is always between you and yourself. And that bond, when nurtured with truth, is unshakable. Overcoming resistance does not require hardness against oneself, but a firm kindness. A discipline that embraces, guides, and does not give up. Because it is fidelity to the difficult, not escape from discomfort, that forges great souls. One act of courage at a time, even if small, builds more than results. It builds character. And it is on this foundation that a life with direction, purpose, and meaning is erected.